I was having dinner with my family. My son-in-law looked at me and said out loud, "Is this useless old woman gonna eat everything again?" The whole table laughed. I stood up slowly, wiped my mouth, and said, "Excuse me." The next morning, the bank called him. But let me tell you how I got to that moment. Because that night, while everyone was laughing, something inside me stopped breaking. And it started to harden. My name is Emily. I am 70 years old. I have 3 children, 7 grandchildren, and a story I never thought I would have to tell. For decades, I was the woman who gave everything without asking for anything in return. The one who cooked for 20 people every Sunday. The one who took care of sick grandchildren while their parents worked. The one who lent money without signed receipts because family does not need paperwork. That Thursday dinner was in the house where I lived with my husband Henry for 42 years. The same house where I raised my children. Where I hung the photos of every birthday, every graduation, every baptism, the beige walls that I painted myself when I still had the strength to climb a ladder, the solid oak dining room set that we bought with Henry's first paycheck as an engineer. But that night, sitting at my own table, I felt like an intruder. Sarah, my youngest daughter, had prepared a pot roast. Steve, her husband, was sitting at the head of the table, my place. The place where Henry sat every night for 4 decades. Now it was his. I occupied a chair in the corner near the kitchen, as if I were the maid waiting for orders. The grandkids, Matt, who is 12, and Lily, who is 9, were glued to their phones. They did not even look up when I served the rice. Sarah looked tired with deep circles under her eyes and her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Steve was wearing a new shirt. A designer brand, one of those that costs what I used to spend on groceries for the whole week. I started to serve myself a second portion of the roast, just a little bit more. I had cooked for years, but now I rarely ate comfortably in my own home. I always felt like I was in the way, that I was taking up space, that I was wasting resources that did not belong to me. It was then that Steve let those words out. "Is this useless old woman going to eat everything again?" The fork froze in my hand. I looked around the table. Matt smiled while looking at his cell phone. Lily stifled a giggle. Sarah, my Sarah. She lowered her gaze to her plate and said nothing. Nothing. Steve laughed harder, as if he had just told the best joke in the world. "I am just kidding, mother-in-law. Do not get mad. But you do repeat, and then you complain that your stomach hurts." My throat burned. Not from the roast, from the words I wanted to scream but could not get out. I wiped my mouth with the cloth napkin, the one I embroidered 30 years ago with my family's initials. I left the fork on the plate, carefully making the least amount of noise possible. I stood up. "Excuse me." No one answered. No one asked if I was okay. As I walked up the stairs toward my room, the smallest one in the house, the one that used to be the sewing room, I heard them laughing again. Someone turned on the television. I closed the door. I sat on the bed that creaked every time I moved. And there, in the dark, with the taste of the roast still in my mouth, I made the most important decision of my life. No more. I took out my phone, an old model that Matt had called prehistoric last month. I looked for a number I had not dialed since Henry's funeral, Mr. Morris Harrison, my lawyer. The same one who drafted my husband's will, the one who knew every detail of what I owned. I dialed. 3 rings. 4. Emily. What happened? "Morris, I need us to meet tomorrow first thing in the morning and bring all the documents. All of them." There was a silence on the other end. Then with a serious voice, "Are you sure?" I looked at the closed door. Downstairs, an action movie could be heard. Explosions, screams, laughter. More sure than ever. I hung up. I took a deep breath. And for the first time in 5 years since Henry died, and I let Sarah and Steve help me with everything, I felt something like clarity. I did not know exactly what I was going to do, but I knew that humiliation would be the last one. Because what Steve did not know, what none of them knew, was that the useless old woman had built a fortune that they could barely imagine. And tomorrow, I would start to protect it. If this story is touching your heart, welcome back to the channel and please subscribe to keep accompanying me in this story. Because what is coming next, not even I saw coming. That night, I could not sleep. I stayed staring at the cracked ceiling of my room, listening to the sounds of a house that no longer felt like mine. The television turning off past midnight, Steve's footsteps going up the stairs, the door of the master bedroom closing, the one that was my bedroom for 42 years. I got up before dawn, 5 in the morning. Outside it was still dark, but I could no longer stay still. I opened the drawer of the nightstand and took out a rusty metal box, the same one I had kept since I got married. Inside were documents that I had not reviewed since Henry's funeral. I needed to remember who I was before becoming the shadow that lived in the corner of her own house. My full name is Emily Reynolds. I was born in Ohio in 1955. I studied accounting when women of my generation barely finished high school. I graduated with honors. I worked at an auditing firm for 15 years before my first child was born. When I married Henry, he was a civil engineer who had just graduated and barely earned enough to pay the rent for a 2-bedroom apartment. I kept working. My income paid the down payment for this house, the first furniture, the first station wagon we had. But nobody remembers that. To my children, Dad was always the provider. I was just Mom, the one who made breakfast and checked homework. What they never knew is that when Henry started his construction company, I was his partner. Not by name, because in those days, women were not taken seriously in business. But I did the accounting. I negotiated with suppliers. I found the tax loopholes that saved us thousands of dollars every year. Every dollar Henry earned, I multiplied with smart investments. I bought a commercial space downtown when nobody wanted to invest there. Today it is worth 3 times what I paid. I acquired shares in companies that were just starting. Some went bankrupt. Others grew so much that they gave me returns of 300%. When Henry died 5 years ago from a sudden heart attack, I collapsed. I lost my life partner, my confidant. The only one who knew how much my work was worth, even if no one else saw it. And in that moment of weakness, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I gave them access to everything. Sarah came to the funeral with Steve. She hugged me crying and told me, "Mom, do not worry about anything. We will take care of everything." And I, devastated, believed her. I signed a limited power of attorney so she could help me with bank procedures, with the deeds, with utility payments. Just so you do not have to run around so much, Mom. You are not up for these hassles anymore. Steve suggested they move in with me, so you are not alone in this big house. I accepted. I thought it would be temporary. 3 months, maybe 6. 5 years have passed. Little by little, I stopped making decisions. Steve had an opinion on everything. Mother-in-law better not renew that certificate. The bank has very low rates. Do not worry about the property tax. I will pay it with your card. Why do you want to go out? I will bring you whatever you need. I convinced myself that they were taking care of me, that I was a burden and should be grateful that they put up with me. But that morning, with the documents spread out on my bed, I saw the truth with brutal clarity. The house in my name. Original deeds kept in a safety deposit box that only I could open. 2 commercial spaces in the downtown district, in my name. Rented to a cafe and a boutique. Monthly income of $2,000 that was deposited into an account that Sarah managed for me. An investment account at Chase Bank, $80,000. It generated interest that I had never seen again. And the piece of information that took my breath away. 2 years ago, Steve asked me to co-sign a business loan. It is just a formality, mother-in-law. I need a co-signer to open my auto repair shop. I am not going to use a single dime of your money, I swear. I co-signed it, $40,000. The shop went bankrupt in 8 months. Steve told me he had had bad luck with a partner, that he would pay me back every penny, that he just needed time. I never saw a single dollar back, and the bank never charged me. Why Steve had kept paying the minimum monthly payments. With my money, the money from my rents, the money that Sarah supposedly managed. I felt like the walls were closing in on me. For 5 years, I had been blind, trusting, believing that my family was protecting me when in reality they were draining me little by little. Steve's new car, Sarah's latest model phone, the grandkids' expensive private lessons, the kitchen remodel that we needed urgently. All paid for with my resources while I wore clothes from 10 years ago and bought the cheapest soap at the grocery store. I put the documents in my purse, a worn fabric bag that Matt had called a homeless person's bag last week. I went down the stairs. In the kitchen, Steve was eating eggs with sausage while watching the news on his tablet. Sarah was ironing her nursing uniform. The kids were still sleeping. "Good morning," I said with the most neutral voice I could muster. Steve did not even look up. "There is coffee on the stove." I served myself. The coffee was cold. No one had left any fresh coffee for me. "I am going out for a while," I announced. "I have some errands pending." "Errands." Sarah furrowed her brow. "What errands, Mom? If you want, I will go with you." "It is not necessary, honey. I am just going to see Mr. Harrison." Steve finally looked up. His eyes narrowed. "The lawyer." "What for?" I smiled. A small, calm smile. "Old people things. Boring papers." I took my purse and left before they could ask more questions. Outside, the sun was barely starting to warm the asphalt. I walked 3 blocks to the main avenue and hailed a cab. "To the Harrison and Associates office, please." As the cab advanced through the morning traffic, I took out my phone and looked again at the bank statements I had printed in silence the night before, when everyone was sleeping. The numbers did not lie. In 5 years, I had lent my family more than $60,000 between the loan guarantee, the remodeling payments, and the daily expenses that Steve charged to our shared account. And never, not a single time had they asked me what I needed. The cab stopped in front of a glass building. I paid and went up to the 4th floor. The receptionist recognized me immediately. "Mrs. Reynolds, Mr. Harrison is waiting for you." I entered the office. Mr. Harrison was 73 years old, had completely white hair, and a look that had seen 1,000 families destroy themselves over money. "Emily," he said, standing up to hug me, "tell me everything." And there, sitting in front of the mahogany desk with the co-signing contract spread out in front of me, I told him every humiliation, every slight, every poisoned comment disguised as a joke. When I finished, Mr. Harrison clasped his hands on the desk. "What do you want to do?" I took a deep breath. "I want to get my life back, and I want them to learn that dignity is not negotiable, not even with family." Mr. Harrison nodded slowly. Then he opened a folder and started taking out documents. "Then let's start here." Mr. Harrison spread the documents on his desk like a surgeon preparing his instruments. Each paper represented a decision. Each signature I placed would be a step towards something that terrified me and liberated me at the same time. "Emily, before making any move, I need you to understand something," he said with a firm voice. "Once you start, there is no turning back. Your family is going to react probably badly. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about the laughter last night, about Sarah's eyes looking down, about Steve sitting in Henry's spot as if it had always belonged to him. I am prepared. We spent 3 hours reviewing every detail. Mr. Harrison explained options I did not know I had rights I had forgotten I possessed. First, the loan co-signature. Since Steve had never officially informed me about the real status of his debt, and since I signed under false information, he said the business was doing well when it was already bankrupt, I could withdraw my guarantee. The bank would have to restructure the debt with only Steve as responsible. "They are going to call him in 48 hours, Mr. Harrison warned. "When they see he no longer has backing, they are going to demand collateral or immediate payments." Perfect. Second, the power of attorney I gave Sarah was limited. She could make transactions, yes, but not sell properties or take out loans in my name. However, That power could be revoked at any time. If you revoke the power of attorney, she will no longer be able to touch your accounts, nor the rents, nor the investments. My hand trembled over the document, revoking the power of attorney from my own daughter, telling her I did not trust her. But did I really trust her, or was I just afraid of being alone? "What happens with the house?" I asked. "They live there with me." Mr. Harrison leaned back in his chair. "The house is yours. They are your guests. You can ask them to leave at any time. Legally, you have every right. Guests. In my own house, my daughter and son-in-law were just guests. Give me time to think about that," I said. "I do not want to leave Sarah on the street. She is still my daughter." "Of course. But Emily, you do not deserve to live as a prisoner in your own home either." I signed the first documents. Withdrawal of the co-signature, revocation of the power of attorney, Mr. Harrison would stamp them and deliver them to the bank and the public registry that same afternoon. "One more thing," I said before leaving. "I need to change my will." Mr. Harrison raised an eyebrow. "What do you have in mind?" "I want to create a trust for my grandchildren, something that neither Sarah nor Steve can touch. That serves only for education college books courses, but they cannot use a single dollar for themselves." "Smart. How much?" I did the math mentally. $80,000 from my investment account. Mr. Harrison whistled softly. "That is going to hurt when they find out." "Let it hurt. My grandchildren deserve a future. Their parents deserve a lesson." I left the office past 2 in the afternoon. I had not eaten anything, but I was not hungry. I had something better, a plan. I walked through the city aimlessly. I needed to think, to process, to decide how much I was willing to fight. I stopped in front of a small church, St. Michael's Parish. I went in. The smell of incense and candle wax enveloped me like a hug from my childhood. I sat on a pew in the back and looked at the altar. "Henry," I whispered, "I wish you were here. You always knew what to do." But Henry was not there, and I had spent 5 years waiting for someone else to solve my life. I closed my eyes. I remembered fragments of the last few years, not just the humiliation from last night. There were signs from long before, my 68th birthday that no one remembered. Steve organized a barbecue that day to watch the football game with his friends. He did not even ask me if I wanted to invite anyone. Last Christmas, when I bought gifts for everyone with my money, and they gave me an extra large sweater. "So you are comfortable, mother-in-law." It was horrible mustard colored with an embroidered reindeer. I wore it once so as not to be rude and then hid it at the bottom of the drawer. The times I went down to the living room and Steve changed the channel without asking what I was watching. "You have seen enough, mother-in-law. Now it is time for my show." The meals where I served everyone first, and when it was my turn to eat, the food was already cold. No one ever waited for me. The comments. God, the comments. "You are too old for that." "Better stay home. Do not want to get yourself tired." "Leave it to me. You do not understand how this works anymore." "Oh, mother-in-law, you and your ideas from the 1950s. Little stabs disguised as concern, and I accepted them all, one by one, because I was afraid of being annoying, afraid that they would leave me alone, afraid of being the bitter mother that no one wants to visit. But last night, when the whole table laughed at me, something changed. I understood that I was already alone, that living surrounded by people who despise you is worse than living in dignified solitude. I opened my eyes. An old woman was lighting a candle in front of the Virgin Mary. She was my age, maybe older, but she moved with purpose, with calm, like someone who knew exactly who she was. I wanted to be like her. I stood up, put a $20 bill in the donation box, and left the church with crystal clear clarity. I took a cab back home. It was almost 5 in the afternoon. When I entered, the house was silent. Sarah had not arrived from her shift at the hospital. Steve was probably at the shop or at some bar with his friends, the grandkids at school. I went up to my room and took an old suitcase out of the closet, the same one I used on my honeymoon almost 50 years ago. I started packing clothes, not much, just the essentials. I was not leaving yet, but I needed to have everything ready for when the moment came. I also put the important documents in a folder, copies of everything I signed today, the bank statements, the property deeds, everything. At 7, I heard the front door open. Voices. Steve had arrived. I went down to make dinner like always. I acted normal. I served vegetable soup and toast. I set the table. I called everyone. We ate in uncomfortable silence. Steve looked at me out of the corner of his eye, as if he knew something had changed but could not identify what. "How did it go with the lawyer?" Sarah asked. "Fine, I just updated some papers." "What papers?" I smiled. "Boring things, honey, nothing important." Liar. It was the most important thing I had done in years. That night, lying in my bed, I looked at my phone. Mr. Harrison had sent me a text. "Documents delivered. The bank will receive the notification tomorrow, first thing in the morning. Get ready," I replied. "Ready?" I turned off the light, and for the first time in 5 years, I slept without that knot in my stomach. Because I knew that tomorrow, when the bank called Steve, when he discovered that the useless old woman had taken away his safety net, everything would change, and I would be ready for whatever came. Because the real war does not start with shouting. It starts with silence, with decisions made in secret, with taking back the power they took from you while you were sleeping. And I had just woken up. I woke up at 5:30 in the morning. The alarm did not even go off. My body knew that today was the day. I showered. I dressed in beige linen pants and a simple white blouse. Nothing special. I wanted to look exactly like always the invisible grandmother who makes breakfast and causes no trouble. I went down to the kitchen. I put the coffee on to boil. I took out eggs, biscuits, bacon. I heated the skillet. The movements were automatic after decades of the same routine, but today was different. Every action had a different weight. As if I were preparing my last meal as submissive Emily, the one who lowered her head and apologized for existing. At 7, Steve came down first. He was wearing a t-shirt from his business that closed months ago, but he kept wearing it as if he were still the owner of something. He sat at the head of the table without saying hello. He took his coffee and started checking his cell phone. "Good morning," I said with a neutral voice. He grunted something unintelligible. I served his plate, scrambled eggs, bacon, 3 warm biscuits. I put it in front of him. He did not even look up. Sarah came down 15 minutes later. She had wet hair and a wrinkled nursing uniform. She smelled of cheap lotion and exhaustion. "Oh, Mom, you shouldn't have bothered," she said, but she was already pouring herself coffee. It is no bother. Lie. Everything was a bother lately, but it was not yet time to say it. The grandkids came down dragging their feet, Matt with headphones on, Lily yawning. They sat down without saying hello. They took their plates. They ate in silence while looking at their phones. The table was full of people, and I felt completely alone. Steve finished his breakfast and finally spoke. "Hey, mother-in-law, I need you to sign some papers for me today." I looked up. "What papers?" "From the bank. They are renewing the loan contract and they need your updated signature as a co-signer." Something cold ran down my back, so he already knew, or he was about to find out. "What loan?" I asked, feigning confusion. "The one for the shop, the one you signed 2 years ago, you know." His tone was impatient. "Oh, that one." I took a sip of coffee. "And how is the shop going?" He tensed up. "Good, it is going good." "Really, why haven't you told me anything for months?" Sarah intervened nervously. "Mom, the shop went through a rough patch, but Steve is working on recovering it. That is why he needs to renew the loan." "I understand." I nodded slowly. "And how much does he still owe?" Steve clenched his jaw. "That is between the bank and me, mother-in-law. I just need your signature." "Sure, but if I am going to sign, I need to know how much I am backing." $40,000, the same as before." Lie. Mr. Harrison had shown me the real balance. $65,000 with accumulated interest. Steve had refinanced twice without telling me, and each time the debt grew. I see, I said calmly. Let me think about it. Think about it. Steve slammed the fork onto the plate with force. There is nothing to think about. You already signed before. It is just renewing. Yes, but before they hadn't explained it to me well. Now I want to understand better before signing anything. His face turned red. I cannot believe this. After everything we have done for you, we give you a home food, we take care of you, and now you come out with this. The air grew thick. The grandkids stopped looking at their phones. Sarah went pale. Steve, Sarah started. No, Sarah. Let me speak. He turned toward me. Look, I am going to speak clearly to you because I am tired of beating around the bush. This house needs a lot of things. Leaks in the roof. The bathroom plumbing is old. The yard is a mess. We have plans to remodel to make this a decent place again. Remodel with my money in my house. And what do I think about those plans? I asked softly. You... He laughed a short, bitter laugh. Mother-in-law, with all due respect, you are not up for these things anymore. That is why we are here to take care of what you can no longer do. I see. I left my cup on the table carefully. So I am not part of the decisions. I am just the one who signs the papers. It is not like that, Mom, Sarah intervened. Of course you count. It is just that. You know how this is. Steve understands construction business. We just want to help you. Help me. That word again. All right, I said, standing up. I am going out for a while. I have some things to do. Go out where? Steve furrowed his brow. To walk to clear my head. And the papers. I will see them when I get back. I took my purse and left before he could keep questioning. I walked 4 blocks to a small coffee shop. I sat by the window and ordered a latte. I took out my phone. I had a message from Mr. Harrison. The bank just received the official notification. They are going to call Steve between today and tomorrow to inform him that you no longer count as a co-signer. Get ready for the storm, I replied. It already started. He wanted me to sign a renewal of the loan this morning. He does not even know that I am no longer on the contract. Typical, he wanted to make sure before the bank called him. Do not sign anything, Emily. Nothing. I will not. I turned off the phone. I looked out the window. People passed by in a hurry. Office workers on their way to work. Kids with backpacks heading to school. Everyone with their lives, their problems, their silent battles. How many women like me were out there? How many grandmothers living in their own houses like unwanted guests? How many signing papers they did not understand because family knows best? I stayed in that coffee shop for 2 hours. Not because I was afraid to go back, but because I needed to strengthen my resolve. To remind myself that what I was doing was not cruelty. It was justice. It was dignity. It was recovering what they had taken from me slowly with smiles and sweet, poisoned words. When I returned home near noon, Steve was in the living room pacing from one side to the other, with the phone glued to his ear. His voice was tense. Yes, I understand. But there must be a mistake. No, I have my mother-in-law's guarantee. What do you mean it was revoked when... He saw me enter. His eyes narrowed. Hold on a moment. He told whoever was on the phone. He covered the receiver and stared at me. Did you go to the bank? No. To the notary. I went to my lawyer to update my documents. I told you yesterday. What documents? Mine, Steve. My properties, my accounts, my guarantees. He turned white, then red, then a purple color that made me think he would have a heart attack right there. Did you remove the co-signature? His voice was a harsh whisper. Yes. Why? He shouted. The phone almost fell from his hand. Sarah came running out of the kitchen. What is happening? Why are you shouting? Steve pointed at me with a trembling finger. Your mother just destroyed my life. That is what is happening. Sarah looked at me confused. Mom, what did you do? I took a deep breath. This was the moment, the point of no return. I withdrew my guarantee from Steve's loan and I revoked the power of attorney I gave you 5 years ago. Starting today, nobody handles my money except me." The silence that followed was deafening. And in that silence, I saw the mask of the perfect family we had pretended to be crumble. Steve hung up the phone. His hands were shaking. Sarah was paralyzed in the middle of the living room, looking at me as if I had just grown a second head. "You cannot do this," Steve said. His voice sounded strangely calm, too calm. "You signed a contract, a commitment." "A commitment based on lies," I answered. "You told me the shop was doing well, that you only needed a temporary guarantee, that you would pay me in 6 months. And I was going to pay you." 2 years have passed, Steve, and not only have you not paid me, but the debt grew from $40,000 to $65,000. "Did you think I wasn't going to find out?" Sarah gasped. "$65,000? Steve turned toward her. "It is more complicated than that, Sarah. The interest, the refinancing, the operating costs." "You lied to me," I interrupted. "To both of us. And you used my trust to keep getting into debt while living in my house without paying rent, eating my food, spending the money from my properties." "Your house?" Steve finally exploded. "We have maintained this house. I pay the gas, the electricity, the water, with the money from the rents of my commercial spaces," I said firmly. $2,500 a month that is deposited into an account that Sarah supposedly managed for me. Do you know how much I have seen of that money in 2 years? Nothing. $0. Sarah let herself fall onto the sofa. "Mom, we used that money for the house expenses, for everyone. I thought it was okay. I thought it was what you wanted. You never asked me what I wanted." "Because you never said anything," Steve shouted. "Always there, quiet, cooking, cleaning. How are we supposed to know you had a problem with something if you never spoke?" "The day before yesterday at dinner, I spoke. You called me a useless old woman and the whole table laughed. That was my signal that speaking was useless." Steve clenched his fists. "It was a joke, a damn joke." "Well, I didn't laugh." A dense silence fell. Matt and Lily had appeared on the stairs, listening to everything. Lily had tears in her eyes. Matt looked scared. "Mom," Sarah said with a broken voice, "what are you going to do? Are you going to kick us out?" The question floated in the air like a suspended knife. "No," I answered finally. "Not today, but things are going to change. Radically." "What does that mean?" Steve asked with distrust. "It means that we are going to finish this conversation with my lawyer present tomorrow at 10 in the morning in his office. Both of you." "I am not going to any office," Steve said. "I do not have to answer to you. Then on Monday, I start the legal eviction process and a lawsuit for the $65,000 you owe, plus interest. You decide." His face contracted in a grimace of rage and helplessness. "You are threatening me. I am setting boundaries for you, something I should have done 5 years ago." I took my purse and went up to my room. My legs were shaking, but I did not stop until I closed the door. I sat on the bed and took 3 deep breaths. 4, 5. I had done it. I had said everything. There was no turning back. My phone vibrated. "Mr. Harrison." "How is it going?" "Everything exploded," I told him. "Meeting tomorrow in your office at 10. "Perfect. I have all the documents ready. Bank statements, contracts, receipts. They won't be able to deny anything." "Thanks, Morris." "Emily, are you okay?" I thought about it. I was okay. I had just dynamited my relationship with my daughter and my son-in-law. I had probably traumatized my grandchildren. My house felt like a battlefield, but also for the first time in years, I felt alive. "I am okay," I replied. "Scared, but okay." "That is normal." You are doing it perfectly." I hung up and looked around my small room. The suitcase I had packed was still under the bed. Maybe I would need it soon. The rest of the day passed in an icy silence. No one came down to eat. I made lentil soup just for myself. I ate in the kitchen, looking out the window toward the backyard where Henry had planted a lemon tree that no longer bore fruit. At 8 at night, I heard Steve and Sarah arguing in their room. Muffled screams, sobs, more screams. At 9, they knocked on my door. Yes. Sarah entered alone. Her eyes were swollen and red. She sat on the edge of my bed without asking for permission. "Why didn't you tell me you felt this way?" she asked with a broken voice. "I told you 1,000 times with silences, with looks, with leaving the table. You didn't want to see. It is not fair, Mom. You cannot blame me for everything." "I do not blame you for everything. I blame you for choosing a man who humiliates me over your own mother. I blame you for managing my money as if it were yours. I blame you for never, not a single time in 5 years, asking me what I needed. I asked you." When, Sarah? When did you ask me if I was happy, if I felt comfortable living in the smallest room of my own house, if it hurt me to see you laugh when Steve made fun of me? She broke down crying. "I didn't know it was that serious. I thought you understood that it was his way of being, that he didn't mean it. The problem is not just Steve, it is that you never defended me. Not once." "I am afraid," she whispered. "Afraid that he will leave, of being left alone with 2 kids, of not being able to pay the bills." And there it was. The truth. Sarah had not protected me because she needed me less than she needed him, because her fear of being left alone was bigger than her love for me. "Sarah," I said softly, "I was afraid too. Afraid of being alone after your dad died. That is why I allowed everything. But do you know what I learned? That being alone with dignity is better than being accompanied with humiliation. What is going to happen tomorrow? You are going to listen to the conditions, and you are going to decide if you can live with them or if you prefer to look for another place. We do not have money for another place. Then you are going to have to learn to respect me in mine." She got up slowly. In the doorway, she turned around. I am sorry for not being the daughter you needed. You can still be her, but you have to choose it, every day." She left, closing the door gently. I stayed awake until past midnight. I mentally reviewed every document that Mr. Harrison had prepared for me, the options, the scenarios. Tomorrow I would present my proposal. 6 months to find another place while they paid me a symbolic rent of $500 a month. Partial forgiveness of the debt. I would only salvage $20,000 of the $40,000 I lent. The rest I would consider loss to close the circle, but with conditions: absolute respect, mandatory family therapy, and never ever touch my money again without my explicit written authorization. If they rejected the proposal, I would evict them in 30 days and sue for the full debt. They were tough options, but fair, because I had learned something fundamental. Forgiveness without consequences is not forgiveness. It is permission for them to hurt you again, and I was no longer willing to give that permission. The morning arrived gray and heavy, as if the sky knew that something was going to break definitively. I got up at 6. I dressed with care. A simple burgundy dress, my pearl necklace that Henry gave me on our 20th anniversary, comfortable closed-toe shoes. I wanted to look like what I was, a 70-year-old woman who knew exactly what she was worth. I went down to make coffee, just for myself. No one else had come down yet. At 8, Steve appeared. He did not look at me. He poured coffee in silence. He took a roll from the bread box and sat in front of the television. Sarah came down 20 minutes later. Her face was swollen from crying so much. The grandkids did not come down. I suppose they had been told to stay in their rooms. "We are leaving at 9:30, I announced. "The appointment is at 10. The office is 20 minutes from here." No one answered. At 9 sharp, Steve finally spoke. "I am not going." "Then I start the legal process on Monday. I already told you." "This is ridiculous. Talking to a lawyer as if we were criminals." "You are not criminals, but you are debtors, and I am the creditor. That is how things work." He stood up abruptly. "You know what, mother-in-law, for 5 years we have put up with you. Your silent complaints, your long faces, your way of playing the victim. You could have said something at any moment." "I said it by leaving the table when you humiliated me, but no one noticed. Or worse, no one cared. It was a joke. Jokes are made between equals, Steve. You treat me as if I were your maid and everyone allows it." Sarah intervened with a trembling voice. "Mom, please, let's talk in a civilized way. I am going to the appointment." "Then I am going just to accompany you," Steve grunted. "But let it be clear, I am not going to sign anything that does not suit me." "No one is forcing you to sign anything," I answered. "Just to listen." We left the house at 9:30. We took Steve's car, that latest model Nissan he bought with my money, without telling me. The ride was silent except for the radio on at low volume. Sarah was in the back seat looking out the window. I was in the front with my purse on my lap, feeling the weight of the documents I carried inside. We arrived at the office building 5 minutes before 10. We went up in the elevator without speaking to each other. Steve clenched and unclenched his fists. Sarah was biting her nails. The receptionist showed us in immediately. Mr. Harrison was waiting for us in the conference room, not in his office. He wanted this to be formal, official. "Good morning," he greeted with a professional tone. "Sit down, please." We settled around a long mahogany table, Mr. Harrison in front of us with perfectly organized folders, me by his side, Sarah and Steve on the other side like defendants in a trial, because in a way they were. Mr. Harrison opened the first folder. "Let's start by establishing the facts. Mrs. Emily Reynolds' widow, legal owner of a house located in Oak Creek, 2 commercial spaces, in the downtown district, an investment account at Chase Bank for $80,000 and other minor assets, correct?" "Correct," I answered. "In July of 2023, you signed as a co-signer for a business loan of $40,000 in the name of Mr. Steve Davis, here present, correct?" "Correct." "The loan was to open an auto repair shop that, as you were informed, was going to generate enough profit to pay the loan in 18 months. Is that so?" "Yes." Mr. Harrison took out a document and slid it across the table toward Steve. "Mr. Davis, this is the current statement of that loan. Can you confirm the balance for us?" Steve barely looked at it. His jaw was tense. $65,000. "And how much of the principal have you paid?" Silence. "Mr. Davis, I asked you a question." $10,000, he murmured. Sarah turned to see him incredulous. "Only $10,000 in 2 years. The business did not work out as expected." "The business closed a year ago," Mr. Harrison interrupted, "and you have been paying only the minimum interest with the money from Mrs. Emily's rents without her explicit knowledge." She knew. Sarah managed the accounts. Sarah went pale. I thought Mom agreed. You told me you had spoken with her." "Of course I spoke with her. I told her I needed the money to maintain the house." "You lied," I said with a firm voice. "You never told me you were using the rents to pay your debt. You told me it was for the house utilities, for food for the kids." "It was the same thing. Everything was for the family." "No, Steve. It was to save your failed business, to maintain your lifestyle, to buy that car." I pointed out the window toward the parking lot. Mr. Harrison took out another document. The car. A 2023 Nissan Altima. Value of $22,000. Bought in cash with a withdrawal from Mrs. Emily's rental account in March of last year. Did she authorize that purchase? I had power of attorney. Steve started. "The power of attorney belonged to Sarah, not yours, and the power was for administration, not for personal purchases. Legally, that purchase is questionable." Steve stood up abruptly. "This is a circus. Did you bring me here to humiliate me?" "We brought you here to show you the truth." I said, standing up too. "For 5 years you have lived off my money while treating me like trash, and my daughter let you do it because she was more afraid of losing you than of losing me." "Mom, that is not fair." Sarah also stood up with tears running down her cheeks. "Is it not fair?" "You know it is not fair." "Ashley, that on my 68th birthday, nobody remembered because Ryan organized a get-together with his friends, that for Christmas you gave me an ugly sweater you bought on sale while I gave everyone expensive electronics, that every time Ryan insulted me, you just looked down and stayed silent. I did not know what to do. You could have defended me, just once. That is the only thing I needed. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat. Ladies, sir, let us sit down. We still have a lot to review. We sat down. Ryan's face was red with rage. Ashley was sobbing silently. Mister. Harrison continued with an implacable tone. In addition to the loan and the car, we found other questionable expenses. A trip to Cabo last year for $3,000, music lessons for the kids for $500 a month, subscriptions to streaming services, restaurants, designer clothes, all charged to the account that was supposedly for maintaining the house. Those things were also for the house for the family, Ryan insisted. Meanwhile, Mrs. Susan was buying her clothes at the thrift store and using cheap soap because she believed she had no money, Mr. Harrison added. The silence that followed was crushing. Ryan finally crumbled. He covered his face with his hands. Okay, yes, I crossed the line, I know, but I did not know how to tell her. The business failed, and I did not want to look like a loser in front of my family. So you used me as your personal piggy bank, I said. I was going to pay you back, I swear. With what money, Ryan? You do not have a job, the shop closed down. Where was the money going to come from? He did not answer, because there was no answer. Ashley spoke with a broken voice. Mom, what do you want us to do? Mr. Harrison opened the last folder, the one containing my proposal. Mrs. Susan has prepared 2 options. The first one, you have 6 months to find another place to live. During those 6 months, you will pay a rent of $1,000 a month. The loan debt is restructured. Of the $50,000 originally owed, $20,000 are forgiven. The remaining $30,000 must be paid in installments of $600 a month for 4 years. If you miss a single payment, the entire debt becomes immediately due with legal interest. And the second option asked Ashley, eviction in 30 days and a lawsuit for the full $80,000. That would include the seizure of the car and any other assets you possess. Ryan looked up. You are destroying me. No, I replied with a firm voice. I am setting boundaries, something I should have done a long time ago. And Ryan, if you accept the first option, there are additional conditions. Which ones? Absolute respect, 0 insults, 0 mockery, 0 derogatory comments, monthly family therapy. The 4 of you, including the children, and never ever do you touch my money again without my written authorization and in front of a notary. That is impossible, Ryan started. Then take the second option. I interrupted him. I already made my decision. Now it is your turn to make yours. Ashley looked at him. Ryan looked at her. And in that exchange of glances, I saw everything. The fear, the shame, the impotent rage. We need time to think about it, said Ashley finally. You have until Monday at 5 in the afternoon, replied Mr. Harrison. After that, Mrs. Susan will proceed with the option she considers appropriate. We stood up. Ryan left first without saying goodbye. Ashley stopped at the door. Mom, I still love you despite everything. I love you too, daughter. That is why I'm doing this, because love without limits is not love. It is self-destruction. She left. Mr. Harrison and I remained alone in the conference room. You did very well, he said. It does not feel good. It never feels good to set boundaries, but it is necessary. I nodded. He was right. I left the building and took a taxi back. I did not want to go with them. I needed space to breathe. During the ride, I looked out the window. The city kept moving, oblivious to my little family drama. And I realized something. The world did not end because I had said no more. In fact, the world kept turning, and I kept breathing. And for the first time in years, I breathed without that crushing weight on my chest. I arrived home before them. The house was empty. The grandkids must be at school. I went up to my room and sat on the bed waiting. I knew the explosion would come. It was only a matter of time. Half an hour later, I heard the car park, the front door opening with force, heavy steps going up the stairs, banging on my door, loud, desperate. "Open up!" It was Ryan. I opened. He was unhinged. He had bloodshot eyes and messed up hair as if he had been pulling it the whole way. "We need to talk. We already talked at the office." "No, now we are going to talk for real, without lawyers, without papers. Just you and me." Ashley appeared behind him. "Ryan, please. Let me talk to her." I stepped aside and let them pass, the three of us in my small room. Ryan walked in circles like a caged animal. Ashley sat on the only chair. I remained standing by the window. "You know what bothers me the most," Ryan started. "It is not the money. It is not the papers. It is that for 5 years you acted like everything was fine, as if you did not care about anything. And now you come out with this." "I acted like that because I was afraid," I replied. "Afraid that if I said something you would leave me alone. Afraid of being the bitter mother-in-law. Afraid of losing my family." "Well, you are going to lose it. Is that what you want?" "I want respect. If to have respect I have to be alone, then yes, I prefer that." Ryan laughed, a bitter laugh, broken. "Respect, sure, but you never respected my effort, my work, my attempt to get ahead. Your effort." "What effort, Ryan? You opened a shop with my money. You let it go bankrupt and then kept spending my money as if nothing had happened. Where is the effort in that the business failed? Things happen. I am not the first nor the last to go bankrupt." "You are right, but you are the first to keep living like a rich man when you do not have a dime, with your mother-in-law's money in your mother-in-law's house, while you insult your mother-in-law." "Enough with the insult thing. It was a damn joke." "It was not a joke," I screamed, and it was the first time in 5 years that I screamed in that house. It was the summary of 5 years of scorn, of small comments, of making me feel like I was in the way, of treating me as if I were your maid, not the owner of the house where you live for free. Ashley sobbed. "Mom, I am sorry. I am so sorry." I turned towards her. "Do you know when I knew I had lost my daughter? It was not when you got married. It was not when you moved. It was on my 68th birthday. That day when Ryan organized his barbecue with his friends. I went down to the kitchen in the morning and you were there making coffee. I told you, today I turned 68. And you told me, 'Oh, right, Mom, happy birthday.' And you kept making coffee without even looking at me. Not a hug, not a cake, nothing. That day I understood that I was no longer your priority. I was just another piece of furniture in the house. I do not remember it like that because for you it was not important, but for me it was the day I started to disappear." Ryan intervened this time with a calmer tone, but equally hard. "And what did you expect? That we treat you like a queen? We all live here. We are family. Families support each other. Families respect each other," I corrected. "And support is mutual. It is not just one person giving and everyone else taking. We gave you company so you would not be alone after your husband died. You did not give me company. You took away my home, my privacy, my dignity." "That is an exaggeration." I opened the drawer of my nightstand. I took out an old notebook. I had been filling it during the last 6 months without realizing it. Notes, dates, comments that had hurt me. I opened it to a random page and read out loud. March 15th. Ryan told me not to cook anymore because my food was tasteless. Ashley laughed and said, "It is true, Mom. You are already getting forgetful with the salt." I turned another page. May 3rd. Rachel needed help with her math homework. I studied accounting. I offered to help her. Ryan said, "Better leave the mother-in-law alone. She does not even remember those things anymore. I will help her." Rachel did not even look at me. Another page. July 22nd. Matthew turned 12. I made a 3-milk cake, his favorite since he was a child. We cut it after dinner. Matthew said, "Grandma, this tastes weird." Ryan tasted it and said, "Yeah, better we order one from the bakery next time." I threw half a cake in the trash that night. Ashley was crying silently. Ryan had turned pale. "I have 32 more pages," I said, closing the notebook. 32 pages of small insults that turned into a giant heartbreak, and the day of the dinner with the comment of "useless old woman" was just the straw that broke the camel's back. "I did not know you felt that way," murmured Ashley, "because you never asked. You were so busy keeping Ryan happy that you forgot that I also needed someone to take care of me." Ryan sat on the edge of my bed, defeated. "And now what do you hate us? Do you want us to disappear from your life? I do not hate you, but I cannot go on like this either. I need you to understand something fundamental. The money I spent on you was not extra money. It was the fruit of 40 years of work, of sacrifices, of smart decisions. And you squandered it as if it were water while making me feel like I was the burden." "We are going to pay you," said Ryan. "Every dollar, I swear." "With what money? I am going to get a job, a real job, no more inventions of my own businesses. I am going to work for someone else if necessary." "Ryan is right," added Ashley. "I can take extra shifts at the hospital. We can pay." I looked at both of them. There was sincerity in their eyes, but there was also desperation, and I could not distinguish one from the other. "You have until Monday," I repeated. "Choose which option you are going to take, but know this: if you choose to stay, the rules change radically. This is still my house. You are my guests, and I am going to start living like the owner. I am not like the employee I became." "What does that mean?" asked Ashley. "It means I am going to take the master bedroom again, the one that was mine and your father's. You can stay in the bedroom where you are now. It is bigger than this one where you put me, but there are no buts. Either you take it or you leave. Also, I am going to hire someone to clean the house twice a week. I am not going to do it alone anymore. And I am going to pay for it from my rents, which will be deposited into my personal account, again, not the family account." "That is fair," admitted Ashley in a low voice. "And one more thing. The grandkids. They need to know the truth. Not all the details, but enough to understand that what happened is not normal, that families should not function like this." "They are going to hate us," said Ryan. "They are going to learn. That is different." A long silence fell. Outside, I heard the school bus stop, voices of children, the front door opening. Matthew and Rachel had arrived. "Talk to each other," I said. "Think, decide. But on Monday at 5, I want an answer. And whatever it is, I am going to respect it. Because I do know how to respect the decisions of others, even if they hurt me." They left my room in silence. I heard them go down the stairs, muffled voices talking to the grandkids, more sobs from Ashley. I sat on my bed and looked at the notebook that was still in my hands, 32 pages of accumulated pain. I wondered how many women in the world had similar notebooks. How many grandmothers, mothers, aunts writing in silence every wound because they did not have the courage to say them out loud. I opened the window. The fresh air entered my room. I took a deep breath, and I took the notebook, that notebook full of sadness, and I tore it up, page by page, slowly, like a ritual, because I did not need it anymore. I had already said everything I had to say, and whatever they said on Monday, I had already won. I had recovered my voice. The weekend was strange, like living with ghosts in a house haunted by recently revealed secrets. On Saturday morning, Matthew and Rachel avoided me. They went into the kitchen, grabbed cereal, and ran to their rooms. I guess Ashley and Ryan had told them something, but not everything. The kids looked at me as if I were a stranger, or worse, as if I were the villain of a story they did not understand. Ashley spent all Saturday locked in her room. I could hear her crying through the walls. Ryan left early and did not return until night. He smelled of beer and cigarettes when he entered. I spent the day reorganizing my documents, separating what was mine from what had been ours. It was more than I thought and less than it should have been. On Sunday afternoon, Ashley knocked on my door. "Mom, can we talk alone?" Of course. We went into my room and she closed the door. She sat on the bed with her legs crossed like when she was a child and came to tell me her problems from school. But she was no longer a child. She was a 43-year-old woman with worry lines on her forehead and gray hairs she covered with cheap dye. "I do not know where to start," she said. "Start where it hurts the most." She took a deep breath. I think you are right about everything. And that is what hurts me the most. That for 5 years, without realizing it, I stopped seeing you as my mom and started seeing you as a resource, as someone who was there to make our lives easier. "When did it start?" I asked. "I do not know. It was gradual. When Dad died, I was devastated. Ryan was my support. He held me when I felt like I was going to fall, and somehow I started prioritizing his happiness over everything else, because I was afraid that if he was not happy, he would leave me, and I could not handle another loss. And me, did I not count as a loss? You were there. You were always there. I suppose that I assumed you would always be there, that you had nowhere to go, that you would not leave, because I had no options, right? The old widow without her husband depending on her children. I never thought of it like that. But that is how you treated me." Ashley covered her face with her hands. "When did I become this person my mom taught me to be strong, to defend myself, not to let anyone trample on me, and I trampled on you. It was not just your fault. I also gave you permission. Every time I stayed silent, every time I endured a comment, every time I said, 'It is okay,' when it was not okay. Why did you do it? For the same reason as you, fear of being alone. Your dad was my partner for 42 years. When he died, I was left empty, and you all filled that void. Even if it was with crumbs, it was better than nothing, or so I thought. And now I know that crumbs poison you, that it is better to be hungry with dignity than to be full of humiliation." Ashley wiped her tears. "I talked to Ryan last night. After the kids fell asleep, I told him everything, how I felt, how I had failed as a daughter, how I had allowed it all. And what did he say? He got mad first. He said I was being dramatic, that you were manipulating me. But later, he broke down. He admitted he had been a jerk, that he took advantage of the situation, that he thought that because we had your power of attorney, we could do whatever we wanted with your things. Ori and the kids. We spoke to them this morning before you woke up. We explained that we had been living in your house without paying you, that we had spent your money without permission, that we had been unfair to you. How did they react? Matthew asked if we were going to end up homeless. Rachel asked if you hated us. We told them the truth, that it depends on us, on whether we can learn to respect you." I stayed silent, processing. Ashley continued. "Matthew remembered something. He said it is like when I made fun of Charlie at school and the teacher told me that bullies never win. And Rachel said so Dad was Grandma's bully." I got a lump in my throat. "They are good kids. They are your grandkids. They have your intelligence and your way of seeing things clearly. Ashley, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be brutally honest. Anything. If Ryan told you that it is him or me that you have to choose between your husband and your mother, who would you choose?" The silence that followed was eternal. Ashley looked at the floor, then at the window, then at her hands. Finally, she looked me in the eyes. "Before this week, I would have told you him without hesitation because he was my present, because he slept next to me every night, because I depended financially on him, although in reality he depended on you. And now, I do not know. And I think that doubt is an answer in itself, because if I really loved Ryan the way I should, there would be no doubt. But there is, and that terrifies me. Why does it terrify you? Because it means that these 5 years were a lie, that I stayed with him out of fear, not love, that I sacrificed my relationship with you to maintain a marriage that maybe was never as solid as I thought. Ashley, does he treat you well when you are alone, when no one sees you? Does he respect you? She took too long to answer, and that pause told me everything. He has a strong character, she said finally. Sometimes he says hurtful things, but then he apologizes. He says he is stressed about money, about work, about everything. Has he ever raised a hand to you? No, never, but his words sometimes hurt more than a hit, like the words he said to me at dinner. Yes. I got closer and took her hands. They were cold, trembling. Daughter, I need you to understand something. I am not forcing you to choose neither him nor me. I am forcing you to choose yourself, to decide what kind of life you want, what kind of marriage, what kind of person you want to be. I am afraid. I know I was afraid too. But do you know what I discovered? That the fear of being alone is worse when you are accompanied by people who make you feel alone. True loneliness is not being physically alone. It is being surrounded by people who do not see you. Like you were with us. Exactly. Do you forgive me, Mom? The question floated in the air. Did I forgive her? Could I forgive 5 years of emotional abandonment, of silent complicity, of prioritizing a man over her own mother? I forgive you, I said finally. But forgiveness does not mean things go back to how they were before. It means I am willing to build something new, something better, if you are too. I am, I swear. Then prove it tomorrow at 5 with your answer. She nodded, hugged me, and for the first time in 5 years, that hug felt real. Not forced, not guilty real. When she left my room, I stayed sitting on the bed looking at the wall. I thought about Henry, about how he would have handled all this, probably with more toughness than me. Henry did not tolerate disrespect. He used to say that family was the most important thing, but that respect was the glue that kept it together. Am I doing it right, love? I whispered to the air. There was no answer, but in my heart I felt that I was. That after 5 years of losing myself, I was finally finding the way back. That night, I ate dinner alone in the kitchen, a simple sandwich with a glass of water. I did not make anything for anyone else. And when Matthew came down looking for food, I looked at him and said, "There is ham and bread in the fridge. You can make yourself something." "Are you not going to cook, Grandma?" "No, not today." "Are you mad at us?" I got closer and stroked his hair. "I am not mad. I am tired. But I am working on stopping being tired. Do you understand?" "I think so. Dad said we were unfair to you." "Your dad is right." "I am sorry, Grandma." "I am sorry too, my love. I am sorry you had to see all this." "Are we going to leave your house?" "I do not know yet. That is for your parents to decide tomorrow. I do not want to leave. I like living here, although I understand if you want us to leave. My teacher says we all deserve respect, even grandparents." I smiled sadly. Especially grandparents. I hugged him, and in that hug I remembered why I was fighting. Not just for me, also for them. To teach them that love without respect is not love. That family is not an excuse for abuse. That older people are not disposable. I went up to my room and got ready to sleep. Tomorrow would be Monday. Tomorrow at 5 in the afternoon, I would know if my family would choose to respect me or if they would choose to leave. And although it hurt not knowing the answer for the first time in years, I slept with a clear conscience, because I had finally spoken my truth, and that no matter what happened tomorrow was already a victory. Monday dawned with a brutal clarity, as if the universe knew that today everything would be defined. I got up early. I got ready with care. Black dress pants, impeccable white blouse, my pearl necklace. I wanted to look exactly like what I was. A woman who knew her worth. I had breakfast alone. Black coffee and toast. Simple, sufficient. At 9, I left the house. I did not tell anyone where I was going. I no longer had to give explanations. I took a taxi to the bank. I needed to confirm that all changes were in order. The account executive, a young woman named Patricia, received me with a professional smile. "Mrs. Dawson, everything is ready. The rents from your properties are now deposited directly into your personal account. Mr. Ryan Dominguez no longer has access. And does he know? He received an official notification last Friday." Perfect. Patricia showed me the account statements. In 2 months, when the next rent was deposited, I would have total control over my income again. $2,500 a month that I could use however I wanted. For me, for my needs, for my future. "Anything else I can do for you?" asked Patricia. "Yes, I want to open an additional savings account separate with a specific goal." "What would that goal be?" "An apartment small for one person just in case." Patricia nodded sympathetically. She asked no questions. She had surely seen similar cases. Older women recovering their independence, preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. I left the bank feeling powerful. I had options. I was no longer trapped. I walked through the city without a fixed destination. I went into a bookstore and bought 3 novels I had wanted to read for years but never had time. I went into an elegant coffee shop and ordered a cappuccino with a piece of carrot cake. I sat by the window and read 30 pages of one of the novels. Nobody interrupted me. Nobody needed me, and it was glorious. At 3 in the afternoon, I returned home. I found Ashley in the living room. She was sitting on the sofa with her hands clasped, nervous. Ryan was not there. "Where is your husband?" I asked. He went out to look for work." "Seriously, Mom, he went to 3 places today, mechanic shops. He is willing to work as an employee if necessary." "That is good." "Mom, I need to tell you something before 5 comes around." I sat across from her. "I am listening." "Last night, after everyone fell asleep, I was awake thinking about everything, about these 5 years, about who I was before I got married and who I became after. And what did you discover? That I lost something important. My dad always told me, Ashley, never let anyone dim your light, and I let Ryan dim it, little by little, without realizing it." "Did he ask you to dim it?" "Not directly. But every time I had a different opinion, he got upset. Every time I wanted to do something without him, he got jealous. And I, instead of defending myself, started adapting. I started making myself small so he would feel big. And with me, with you, it was worse, because you were stronger than me, more secure. And I think he felt threatened by that, by your independence, by your intelligence. And instead of defending myself and you, I let him make you small too." Her voice broke. I waited in silence while she regained her composure. "This week, when I saw all the documents, when I heard everything you had achieved, everything you built with Dad, I realized something. You are not the useless old woman Ryan said. You are the smartest woman I know, and I was so stupid I did not see it. You were not stupid. You were human. Love blinds us sometimes. It was not love, Mom. It was fear disguised as love." The words remained floating between us, truths so painful they cut when spoken. "What are you going to do?" I asked. "I do not know yet, but I know I cannot go on like this. Ryan and I need therapy, couples therapy, individual, whatever. Because if we are going to stay together, it has to be for real, not out of fear, not out of convenience, but because we choose to work on this. And if it does not work, then I will learn to be alone, like you. I am not alone, Ashley. I am with myself, which is different." She smiled sadly. "You are right." At 4:30, Ryan arrived. He was wearing jeans and a work shirt. He He looked tired, defeated, but there was also something different in his eyes, something resembling humility. "Mom," he said, seeing me, "can we talk before 5? Go ahead." He sat next to Ashley. He took several deep breaths before speaking. "I am not going to try to justify myself. What I did was wrong, very wrong. I took your money without asking. I treated you with scorn. And worst of all, I convinced your daughter that it was okay." "Why?" I asked directly. "Because I felt like less, always. You and Mr. Henry had achieved so much. And I was just a mechanic who wanted to be a businessman. And when my business failed, instead of admitting it, I kept pretending. I kept spending. I kept living as if everything was fine. And the easiest way to feel big was to make you feel small. And now I understand that it does not make me big. It makes me a coward and an abuser." The word hung suspended in the air. Abuser. He had said it, not me. "Today I went to 3 shops," he continued. "At 2, they told me they would contact me. At the 3rd one, they offered for me to start tomorrow. As a basic mechanic. The pay is low, $2,500 a month, but it is something. It is a start." "Are you going to take it?" "Yes, and Ashley is going to take extra shifts at the hospital. Between the 2 of us, we can scrape together $5,000 a month. It is not much, but it is honest. It is real. And my proposal." Ashley and Ryan looked at each other. Then she spoke. "We want to take the first option, the 6 months, the rent of $1,000, the payment of the $30,000 in installments, and the conditions, all of them. The respect, the therapy, everything. Are you sure, Ryan? It is 4 years of payments, $600 a month. I am sure, and if it takes me longer, I will keep paying you until it is settled. It is the least I can do. And the master bedroom." "It is yours," said Ashley firmly. "We are going to vacate it this weekend, and we are going to help you move in." "And the kids?" "We already spoke with them," said Ryan. "We explained everything. Matthew asked if he could help clean the yard to pay Grandma. Rachel said she wants to cook with me on Sundays to make your favorite food." I got a lump in my throat. "They do not have to do that." "Yes, we do have to do it," said Ashley. "Because for 5 years we made you invisible, and now we need you to become visible again. For us, for them, for yourself." I looked at the clock. It was 10 minutes to 5. "Okay," I said finally. "I accept, but I want it to be clear. This is your last chance. If you disrespect me again, if you miss a payment again, if you make me feel like you made me feel these 5 years again, there will be no second option. Understood?" "Understood," they said in unison. "And one more thing. I want the grandkids to spend time with me. Real time. Not just being in the same house, but talking, cooking together, telling me about their lives. Because that is what hurt me the most, losing the connection with them." "I promise," said Ashley with tears in her eyes. I took out my phone and dialed Mr. Harrison. "We have a decision. They took the first option. Prepare the documents for them to sign tomorrow." "Perfect. I expect you at 10 in the morning." I hung up. The 3 of us remained seated in silence. It was not an awkward silence. It was a silence of relief, of exhaustion, of fragile hope. "Mom," said Ashley softly. "Yeah. Do you think one day we can go back to being a family? For real?" "We are already family, Ashley. We always were. The problem is that for 5 years we were a broken family. Now we have the opportunity to be a healthy family, but that requires work, every day, from everyone." "We will do it," she promised. That night we ate dinner together, the 5 of us. We ordered Chinese food because no one had the energy to cook. And for the first time in years, the conversation flowed. The grandkids told me about school. Ryan asked my opinion on something. Ashley served me tea without me asking. They were small gestures, but after 5 years of invisibility, every small gesture felt monumental. Before going to sleep, Ashley stopped me on the stairs. "Thank you for not giving up on us." I did not give up on you. I gave up on being mistreated. It is different. I know. And that is why I admire you more than ever. I hugged her. And in that hug, I felt something I had lost, the certainty that my daughter loved me. Maybe she had forgotten how to show it. But the love was still there, buried under layers of fear and bad decisions. And now we were digging it out. Together. The first 2 months were complicated. Ryan started his job at the shop. He arrived home with grease-stained hands and wounded pride. A man who was once an owner now took orders from a boss 20 years younger than him. I saw it in his eyes every night, the frustration, the shame. But he paid. Every 2 weeks without fail, he gave me $1,250, half his salary. Ashley added another $1,000 from her extra shifts, and they deposited it into my account with a signed receipt. Moving into the master bedroom was cathartic. Walking into the room I shared with Henry for 4 decades made me cry, but it also made me feel like I was recovering pieces of myself I had lost. Family therapy started the 3rd week. A psychologist named Dr. Mendez, who did not hold anything back. The first session was brutal. "Ryan," she said bluntly, "are you aware that your behavior toward your mother-in-law qualifies as economic and emotional abuse?" Ryan tensed up. "I never hit her." Abuse does not always leave visible bruises. Sometimes the scars are internal. Session after session, Dr. Mendez was unearthing uncomfortable truths. Ryan had grown up in a family where his father treated his maternal grandmother like a maid. He simply replicated the pattern without questioning it. "It is not an excuse," said the doctor, "but it is an explanation, and recognizing the origin of the behavior is the first step to changing it." Things improved, slowly, very slowly. Ryan started saying, "Thank you" when I cooked, asking, "Do you need anything?" before going to the store. Small changes that before would have been invisible, but now shone like lighthouses in the dark. Ashley changed too. She started defending me. The first time Ryan made a sarcastic comment about my food, "A little salty, isn't it?" Ashley cut him off immediately. "If you don't like it, you cook." The silence that followed was spectacular. Ryan looked at her surprised. Then he looked down. "You are right. Sorry, Mom, it is good." But not everything was linear progress. The 3rd month, Ryan had a relapse. He arrived from work especially frustrated. His boss had scolded him in front of other mechanics for a mistake. Ryan entered the house, slamming doors, cursing. I was in the kitchen making noodle soup. He passed by me, saw the pot, and muttered, "Soup again. Can't you make something different?" It was instinctive automatic, the old Ryan emerging in a moment of weakness. But this time, I did not stay silent. I turned off the stove. I turned toward him. "Excuse me." He realized his mistake immediately. "Mom, I did not mean—" "Yes, you did. And you know what, Ryan, I am going to remind you of something. You have 2 options. Either you are grateful for what there is, or you make your own food. But what you are not going to do is disrespect me in my house again. Is that clear?" Ashley had entered just in time to hear everything. She stood next to me. "Mom is right. Either you apologize for real, or tonight you eat out on the street." Ryan looked at both of them, and for the first time I saw something I had never seen in him. Genuine shame. "You are right. I am sorry. I really am sorry. I had a crappy day and I took it out on you. That is not right." "No," I said firmly. "It is not right. And if it happens again, I will remember that you warned me this would not work. It is not going to happen again." And it did not. That was the last significant incident. But then came the blow no one expected. 4 months after the ultimatum, Ryan came home, pale as a ghost. It was 3 in the afternoon. He never arrived at that time. "What happened?" asked Ashley, alarmed. "Did you get fired?" The silence was absolute. "Why?" I asked. "Staff cuts. I am the last one hired. I was the first one out." Ashley let herself fall onto the sofa. "Oh my God, and now what do? We have to pay you $1,000 in 5 days." "I know," said Ryan with a broken voice. "I know." I watched them both crumble. Part of me, the hurt part, felt a dark satisfaction. See, you cannot deliver. You cannot keep your promises. But another part of me, the part that was still a mother and grandmother, felt something different. "Do you have savings?" I asked. $600, nothing more. "And you, Ashley?" $400. We were going to use them for Rachel's tuition next month. I did the mental math. $1,000 between the two of them, missing another $1,000 to complete the rent and debt payment. I could demand the full payment. I could use this as an excuse to evict them as I had warned. I could sue for the entire debt with interest. Ryan was looking at me with the eyes of a cornered animal. "Mom, I swear to you I'm going to look for work. Today, tomorrow, the day after. I am going to knock on all the doors necessary. I just need a little time." "How much time?" "A month, 2 maximum, please." Ashley knelt in front of me, literally knelt. "Mom, please, we have been trying, really. It is not for lack of will, it is due to circumstances." "Circumstances are part of life," I said with a hard voice. "And you should have foreseen this. You should have saved more. You should have had a plan B." "You are right," admitted Ashley, crying. "You are absolutely right, but I beg you, do not kick us out. Not now. The kids are in the middle of the school year. Ryan is going to get a job. I am going to take more shifts. We are going to pay you everything down to the last penny." I looked at both of them, pleading, desperate, humiliated, and I realized something. This was exactly what they needed to experience. Not the public humiliation Ryan put me through, but the private humiliation of recognizing that their actions have consequences, that the world does not revolve around them, that when you depend on someone, you must treat them with respect. "Okay," I said finally. "I am going to give you 2 months. Seriously." Ryan could not believe it. "But with conditions. This month you pay what you can, the $1,000 you have. Next month you pay $3,000 to make up for it. And if in 2 months Ryan does not have a job, we sell the car, the Nissan you bought with my money, and with that money the debt is paid in advance. But I need the car to look for work. Then get a job before 2 months pass." Ryan swallowed hard. "Deal. And one more thing. Starting today, every dollar you spend, you write down in a notebook. Every dollar you earn, you write down. And at the end of every week, you show it to me. I want total transparency, because my trust was broken. And it has to be earned again, little by little." "We will do it," promised Ashley. The following 2 months were hell for them. Ryan knocked on doors in 50 places. They rejected him in 48. In the 2 that accepted him, the wages were miserable. He chose the one that paid the most, $1,800 a month at an auto parts store. Ashley worked 14-hour shifts. She arrived home crawling with barely enough energy to eat dinner. The grandkids became more independent out of necessity. Matthew learned to heat up food. Rachel learned to wash her own clothes. And I watched them, not with cruelty, but with the satisfaction of someone who knows that the hard lessons are the ones remembered the most. In the next therapy session, Dr. Mendez asked me, "Susan, how do you feel seeing your family struggle like this?" "Conflicted," I admitted. "Part of me feels pity, but another part feels this is necessary, that they needed to hit rock bottom to learn. And if they do not make it, then they will learn another lesson. That actions have permanent consequences." Ryan, who was in the session, spoke. "Mom, do you hate me?" "I do not hate you, Ryan. I have never hated you, but I am not going to save you from the consequences of your own decisions either, because that would not help you. It would make you weaker." "You are right," he said with a broken voice. "And do you know what the worst part is? That now I understand how you felt these 5 years, working until exhaustion and feeling like it is not enough, giving everything and having no one value it. It is horrible. Yes, I said softly. It is horrible. That is why I never want to feel it again. You are not going to feel it again, I swear on my children. And for the first time, I believed him, because they were not just words. They were words backed by actions, by effort, by sacrifice. At the end of the second month, Ryan handed me $3,000. He had gathered it with his salary, with extra jobs on weekends, fixing neighbors' cars with every cent he could save. "Here it is," he said, putting the envelope in my hand. "Complete, well done. Can I keep the car? For now, yes, but it remains a reminder of what you did wrong. Every time you see it, remember." "I will." And while I put that envelope with the money away, I realized something. I was not recovering just my money. I was recovering my dignity, and they were learning theirs. Because dignity is not given away, it is earned. With respect, with effort, with humility, and finally, after 5 years, we were all learning that lesson.